As people are looking to get to like, 7 figures plus with their creator based business, like how do you kind of think about like the flywheels that people could be putting into place to really not just like get to 7 figures, but put something in place that can really help them explode online?
There's so many different routes that you can take. Two in particular, one that has worked for me that has allowed me to scale to multi-millions of dollars as a personal brand has been.
There's a lot of founders and creators in the audience that are maybe newer to their journey. And I know you've been around the block for a bit, from your days at Elite Daily to now, what you're creating, online. I'm always seeing your content out there. What's your advice for people that are just getting started with, sharing their story online? And why do you think it's an important time to be a creator?
Oh, wow. Yeah, bro. It's so cool to see, first and foremost, just like what you're up to and how you're serving these founders. And so if you're here on this show, I just first and foremost just want to congratulate you that you're doing the damn thing, because this shit is hard. Being a founder, being a creator, like, don't get it twisted. You see all this content online. It is not easy. I've been at it for 20 years, which is crazy. I'm like super proud of that because, it's like, yo, 2 decades, I've learned a lot. I've had to overcome so much failure along the way that really is just not failure. It's just not quitting. It's adapting, it's pivoting, it's learning, it's staying a student of the game. And it's just epic, man, to see what you've created, Matt, with the community that you built and just how you continue to serve, man, at the highest level, and just to be friends with you along the way. I think that's what has been really inspiring for me, is just the way that you have continued to collaborate. I mean, this is not the first time that we've done a show together and we've gone on hikes together, but we've continued to share what we learn along the way. And I love that about you. And for me, I feel if you're out there and you're at the beginning stages of becoming a founder and becoming a creator, again, congratulations, you're doing the thing, right? And you're just taking steps every day. And a lot of times we overlook that because we're in the trenches. And it really is just that. It's like, if you can build this resilience muscle of getting up every day and being proud of yourself. And that's actually something that I didn't really know until later on in my career. Like, there was just, I honestly can say I've been at it for 20 years, and just over just like this last year is like when I've actually started to be like, yo, I'm fucking proud of you, G. Like, looking in the mirror, going out on my walks, and like the first thing I think of is just like what I'm proud of about myself, and just the fact that I'm continuing to move the needle forward every day, contribute and serve. And so for me, I feel like it's first and foremost just the mindset piece. I think before we can get into building the business and creating the content and leading our movements, it's the mindset piece, right? It's allowing ourselves to tap into the fact that we have a gift, knowing that we have this unique ability to create whatever the fuck we want. I mean, what an awesome time to be alive with everything that's happening right now with technology and just this intersection of art and technology and entrepreneurship. It wasn't like this when I started 20 years ago. We have so many tools. We have so much access at this point in time that your success is inevitable if you have the resilience to keep pushing forward every day and you stay a student of the game. I'm a lifelong student. And, although we follow a lot of mentors and experts that are out there, there's still students too. And we're all students. And I think if we just have that kind of mentality where you stay a student and you're constantly every day learning, practicing, you are inevitably going to grow and you'll see the results.
No, that's amazing. Yeah, no, when I look at, whether you're a creator or a founder, in many senses, it's like being an athlete. You got to take care of your mindset. You got to have a coach. You got to stick with it, even in the difficult times. And like you're saying, it requires that resiliency. I'm curious, there's a lot of people in the audience that are looking to go and be a full-time creator in 2023, looking to create their own kind of personal media empire around themselves. So you got to break that down with you, because you've been around the block. You've been doing this, like you said, for 20 years. Let's talk a little bit about the mindset, the tools, and some of the systems you need to have in place to make this something that's sustainable. Because me and you both know that really to win this game, it's not something that you're just going to become an overnight success, right? It's, you got to put in the work, you got to put in the time, and have that sort of long-term mindset with it. So, breaking down the mindset piece, right? What do you think are a few key, principles that you use to become a successful creator online?
Yeah, I think that's a really great piece. And I feel what comes through right now for me is just the simplicity, how so much of me getting into the right mindset has been doing like these little simple things that make a huge difference, right? And massively, massively sets me up to win. And those are things like, for one, it's setting up my environment, right? And I think that this is key for any creator. It's how are you setting up your environment so that you can truly win? And how does that environment inspire you? What are the feelings that get me to step into being a creator every day? I want to feel inspired. I want to feel alive. I want to feel excited. I want to feel healthy. I want to feel clear. I want to feel connected, right? So really thinking about what are these feelings that are going to help you to evoke the best version of you that can show up, and sharing that authentically with the world. And so for me, I'm constantly looking at, for one, just like my office space, how do I declutter it? How do I set it up? Like, I'm a huge collector. You may be watching this now. If you're listening to it, I have a huge piece of art behind me. Like, I love art. Art inspires me. So I'm consistent. You go through my house, it's an art museum. I have art everywhere, sculptures everywhere. I'm setting my house up to inspire me with like little things from my travels and artwork, and just plants. Like, having nature around me is really important. And so for me, setting up my environment so that I can be inspired and feel alive and feel connected is really important. I think too, for me, with regards to mindset, it's my connection to God, source, universe, whatever works for you, for me to be connected to that powerful force, because God to me is the ultimate creator. And what makes us creators is the ability to be able to tap into that in which is God, that has been inherited into us and he created in us, which is the ability to create itself. And so that ability to take something that is in the ethers, that is in this galaxy, in this universe, and be able to bring that into our vessels, and to be able to then see it and have a vision, and then ultimately bring it, birth it, create it, make it something real in reality. That is what makes our species so unique. That is what makes us all creators. And so for me, very early on in my day, and literally throughout my entire day before we started this podcast, I am tapping into that connection with God. I'm tapping into that connection with spirit. I am working with the universe. I'm working with these laws, right? And so for me, that's breath work. That is prayer. Like, I've learned to pray. Like, we grow up not knowing how to really pray, and it's so tied to religion and things. And I'm grateful for all of that growing up, but I didn't really learn how to pray until I was in my 30s, where I was like, whoa, there's like a whole new way of talking to God, and to, really getting intentional with my words. Our words are so powerful. Our thoughts, we're thinking 40, 50, sometimes 70,000 thoughts a day. How can we set the thoughts up? 80% of those are negative. How can we start to create more positive thoughts? And that means getting intentional. So outside of the prayer, breath work, meditation, figuring out ways that I can connect to my breath, connect to spirit, for me, we could talk more about that. It's also about intention. And I think this is if there's one thing you take from this podcast, it's like this: learning how to become way more intentional is what has set me up to win in so many ways. And so in the morning, I'm thinking about, I say this, and you're going to want to write this down, but what am I committed to creating? So I'll say, I am committed to creating blank. And then in that, I will write down what it is that I'm committed to creating in regards to, like, for instance, today I knew I was going to be collaborating with Matt. I was like, I want to create connection with Matt. I want to create inspiration. I want to have this prophet-like, wisdom with Matt. I want to create, wisdom. I want to create, like, all these things that I'm like committed to creating throughout my day. And I think when we're really specific, a lot of times we're not. We're just like, I want to have all these things. I want to be successful. What the fuck is success to you? What does that look like for you today? Anchor those thoughts, and know that you as a creator have the ability to create your reality, not just as a personal brand, living your life as a creator. We get that twisted. There's a lot of people who think being a creator means some social media account with a number of followers. Yes, these are tools, but the creator is you. And that's really important to have as a distinction. And so it's a lifestyle, just similar to how I live my life as an entrepreneur. you know, for me, it's living this life as a creator. And so those are a few things. I'll add, obviously, writing, which I know you're a huge fan of, Matt. Like this is something that I've practiced consistently, physically writing. I have a Mont Blanc pen, and I give this as a gift to friends.
There we go.
Um,
Same. There we go.
oh,
Mont Blanc boys.
let's go. Yeah, man. So just writing, getting out in nature, walking, and things like that. So moving my body is all really important to me, and definitely, you know, spending quality time with my family and my new daughter.
Congratulations. I love that. And yeah, no, I think that a lot of times when people are going and thinking about, the creator, becoming a creator and putting themselves out there, sometimes you get lost in kind of like the external noise of it all, right? Like, yeah, the followers on Instagram, the connections on LinkedIn, whatever it may be. But really, creation is an internal game, right? Getting your mindset right, like you're saying, getting that intention clear, being specific about what you're actually looking to accomplish, and then tapping into source to kind of build your own kind of creative future. When you're going and looking for different ideas, like, are there some like interesting strategies that you found to come up with some game-changing ideas? Something I can tell you I'm big on is, like, I'm traveling all the time, currently in Medellin, Colombia, about to head to Kyoto, Japan, and live in Japan for a few months and be inspired there. I'm also big on nature, so I'll screw off on a weekend just to go to a national park somewhere, or go for a long hike and just unplug and find that it kind of restores my creative juices and allows me to come up with just things that I otherwise would never have thought of. I'm curious, like, what are some of those practices that you have in your kind of weekly life that allow you to kind of tap into that creative source?
Oh, dude, I love this question, and I'm like freaking out over here because I literally have been in Colombia for the past week, and I didn't know you were out there, and I had gotten invited to Medellin. And
Oh, damn.
and I was like, I want to come home and see my daughter because it's been a week. But oh, dude, we're so close to each other. That's so cool. My mother was born in Colombia, so it was really fun to be
Oh,
there.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so it
Nice.
was really fun to just like connecting to those roots of mine. Um, and I feel like that is it, bro. Like I genuinely think that one of the greatest things that we have as abundant creators is the ability to experience the world, right? Like, this planet is, as we know it, the most spectacular planet in the whole entire galaxy that we know of. And I think it's sad to think about so many people that live their life and they don't actually take the time and they just stay. I have friends that just stay in a bubble, man. They just stay where they grew up their entire lives. And it's like, man, like what you see, I think the greatest thing I did at a young age was start to travel. I think if you're listening to this and you're 19, 20, 22, 24, whatever, and you're young, get on a fucking plane and just travel, spend the money, go out there, explore, because it's going to open up your world. And when you open up to these different cultures and these different experiences all over the world, especially cultures like Kyoto that have rich histories of thousands of years, it helps you to think differently. And that to me is the special ingredient of every creator. It's the ability to think differently. And so when you go to these places, you're able to start to see all of these different cultures, and it gets you to see things that you may not have saw when you were just sitting in your basement back at home. So for me, it's definitely travel. I get like a huge injection, bro. It's almost like it's like a shot of testosterone for me with inspiration. And so I absolutely love it. It's what I want to continue to do with our company, like do events all over the world. I love doing events at different places around the world too, because then I'll honor the land, and we donate as a creator community. We go and we like donate to orphanages, and we build communities up, and we learn about their modalities, their music, their food, the different spiritual tools that they also have for us to tap into our gifts. And so I love that. And so for me, that's probably at the top of the list for sure, which has been a little tough, through the pandemic. I think that's probably why I got so depressed. I would say the next for me is just nature in general. Like, you don't need the ability to actually travel the world. If that is something that like you're working towards, like even just like once I decided that I was going to live more in nature and I wanted to start going on walks, I just went, and just explored my neighborhood, and I found a trail. And I just feel like, if you really decide like, okay, I want to start getting into nature every day, like you're gonna be surprised what is local that you can also leverage. And so I always hit a trail every day and I'll go for a walk. Music is huge for me. So like, I love listening to music. I love like creating music and just playing with these frequencies. I feel like music is the language of the universe. And so it's the thing that moves us, you know. So that's also movies. Matt, if you haven't seen this have you seen the documentary Jodorowsky's? It's called Jodorowsky's. Gosh, what is it? Jodorowsky's Vision? I may have to look it up. It's based on the story of Dune. Dune was my favorite movie last year. What's been your favorite movie over the last year?
Yes, I have seen that.
Oh, you did?
My favorite movie over the last year. I mean, I'm always watching like The Last Dance twice a year, so that's. But I don't know if that was in the last year.
Yeah, that's good.
What else? Oh man, off the top. Whew, I don't know. On the spot, trying to think of what I've watched that really has inspired me. Let's come back to that.
Okay, so Jodorowsky's Dune, for anyone watching this right now, is the documentary on the original writer of the movie Dune that went on to inspire Star Wars and like every other like huge hit. Eventually, it's the greatest movie that actually never got produced. He couldn't get funding, and you got to see it. It's remarkable. So they finally, after however many years, right, 20, 40 years, I forget how many years, the big production houses out in Los Angeles finally bought the original book, and they finally have produced what we now see as Dune. And I just love that movie so much. And so I love watching things like that, documentaries on artists. I love buying art, going to art museums. I could go on and on. But I think one last one that I want to add that's been really big for me, I think anybody can do, is tapping into your inner child. And the way to do this is just simply just like taking some time to drop into your heart, close your eyes, think back to when you were a little kid, just breathe and just think about like, what were some of the things that you loved as a little kid? So Matt, I'm curious, like what was something, I know this is your interview, but I just want to jam for a hot second.
No, it's good.
I'm curious for you, bro, like growing up, like as like an 8-year-old little boy, like what did you absolutely love? Was it an action figure, a hero, or what did you like to do as a kid?
Yeah, so I've been tapping into this recently a lot with designing a new website for founderwest.com and tapping into my inner child, which I used to be so into like space, you know, loving just like the solar systems, galaxies, you know, just like researching Saturn's rings and everything in between. And then, you know, translating some of that now to the design and the approach we're taking to the website, or, you know, similarly, even just on the creator side of things, like, you know, starting to approach things as like a craft and something I just genuinely enjoy. And when I was younger, there was also a stage, I think probably after the space stage, but before I wanted to be a dentist, which was like my stage of sort of, wanted to be a National Geographic photographer and just go on safaris, take photos of lions, tigers, you know, that whole bit, just, you know, just be like a modern day Steve Irwin. And so, yeah, that was kind of a real passion. But recently kind of getting into more filming and, you know, doing more YouTube stuff, it's kind of tapped back into that sort of inner child of just, oh, wow, like figuring out a camera, figuring out like different shots and just enjoying the process versus like chasing the views per se.
Oh, dude, thank you so much for sharing that with me. I just got to, if you guys, I don't know if you're just listening to this, but if you're watching the video, you can see how Matt just like his body changed, you know, he lit up, you know, the smile was ear to ear, and it's cool. And, you know, we tend to forget about that version of us, man. And like, it gave me this picture of you as a little kid with like the stars on his ceilings and like, you know, putting the planets on your wall and maybe buying a telescope as a kid, or, you know, just studying the books.
I had all that, man. Had the whole kit.
Yeah, that's super cool. Me and you should go to space together. Bro. I would love to go to space with you.
I'm in.
All right, cool.
There we go.
So I actually bought a ticket. I'm going to show it to you, to this new thing where you can like, they like these like hot air balloons that like go up to the tip of Earth, and you kind of see and then come back down. And so I'm going to send that to you and see if you'll roll with me.
Yeah, let's do it.
But for me, just like that, you know, tapping into that. For me, bro, I used to love BMX. Like I was a huge bike rider. And so I had some fun, man, and just went on eBay, and my friend Chris Stoikos, and, you know, invited me to do this, and I took it on, and he was just like, yo, dude, like, just go buy a bike, like, but like build it, like build your, like, what was your bike as a kid? You know, some kids were Mongoose, some kids were GT. I was a GT Dyno Air kid. And so I went on, man, and I built I bought all these parts and I like built myself a GT bike. And I can't tell you how fun it was to like pull out my bike out of this garage. It felt like a little kid again when I used to like, get in trouble at my house, like skidding down my driveway. And so for me, man, I've just been really tapping into that. And there's also, there's always multiple things. I used to actually paint as a kid, or Ninja Turtles. Like if you're a superhero fan, like go buy a superhero, go buy. One of my clients, I told him, I used this as one of my practices and challenged him. And he was a huge G.I. Joe fan. And so he ordered all these cool G.I. Joes. And he told me, he's like, dude, I couldn't believe how this made me feel when I was opening up the boxes again to set up my G.I. Joes. And that then overflowed, that creativity then sparked again as a little kid. And then that overflowed into now him launching his first podcast show. And so I would say that to me is the other like hack, if you will, for just creativity and activating your creator.
Yeah, I love that. I think there's a lot of people probably listening that, they want to have that space to go into nature and to tap into their inner child. And they're finding probably, I see this a lot with different people. They get going, the initial excitement sometimes can wear off as they start creating. And this is where a lot of people just give up. They start getting stressed, overwhelmed, overconsumed with just, trying to keep up with like the content hamster wheel, if you will. I'm curious, like as you've gone and been building out, you've built out successful media companies, which you've exited for 50 million plus. You've built out your own personal media empire that's crushing it. How do you think about, some of the core systems you need to have in place to make this game sustainable?
Yeah, it's really powerful, bro. Well, first of all, you're the systems fucking G, man. Like you guys are in the right place for listening to Matt, and it's been exciting to just be a witness and learning your system. So thanks, bro, for supporting me. And I would say that one of the biggest, most important, I would say there was like number one before like all of it is community. And it's the new way of business. So like building community, which I know you're a huge advocate of, and you've been building communities like me for a long time. Even when I look back at the first business I created, it was like, it's always been community. It's like community is now being championed, but like it's always been fucking community. Like for the longest time, it's just that a lot of people, I don't feel, really knew how to build community and how important it really was and is. But for me, I feel like that's what's allowed me to get through so much, is just having mentors, having coaches, having friends, man. Like I can't tell you how much I value friendships now at this point in my life. Like real friends, like friends that want to take that phone call, text back, let's meet up, let's go on that hike, let's go to space, just friends that you can kick it with, because it's meant to be fun. And so I think that for me, just like having community and breaking that down into like, who are my actual friends? Who are the coaches that are supporting my health? Who are the coaches that are supporting me within business? Who are my coaches that I'm consulting with in regards to branding? Who are like just my mentors, like leadership, legacy type mentors in my life? And having it be diverse, like who are my friends that are international, that come from different cultures, and who are females that, that I can talk to as well. They give me different perspectives, and just my partner, Ashley, and how much she supports me, and my nanny and the people who clean my house, and just like the people all around me that are supporting me so that I can have freedom, so I can have more time to be in my zone of genius as well. My team, the team that I've built, that, used to be 200 employees with Elite Daily, but now with AI and everything else, it's like, we don't need a huge team, but those people play a huge role in our lives to set us up to be in our zones of genius. And so for me, I think it's a big question, because when you kind of go a little step further, then it's actually having software and systems on the back end that are actually managing your life, from like as simple as, I would say this, like if you're at the beginning stage, it's like your calendar. Like if you simply could just have a VA or someone on your team, and if you don't have that even yet, even just yourself, but just learning how to manage your time, that is the game. It's learning how to manage your time, all the way to the people that are the wealthiest in the world. Like, what is the actual thing? And the thing is understanding how to master time, so that way you can be able to use time, because that's the thing that we will never be able to buy back. We're not guaranteed tomorrow. and we're not guaranteed any amount of time. It's the thing that is finite, and so learning how to really be present and master how you're using the time effectively to grow your movement, to create massive impact, to have the income that you need to live a life of freedom and prosperity, and be doing the things that bring you joy, bring you fulfillment, bring contribution to the world. And I feel like for me, it's that. So just simply learning how to use a calendar, and time blocking, giving yourself time. What days are you doing calls? What days? I'm sure Matt has a specific day and time that he's shooting and batching content, a specific day and time he's doing his podcast interview once a week, a specific time that he's going in, and maybe it's every day at a specific time that he's checking in on his community, a certain time where he's going his walks, a certain time that he's doing his writing, a certain amount of time that he's giving and checking in on his team. It's that. And so if you can simply, what I would suggest in building the system that works for you is actually audit your time. And so this week that you hear this podcast, for the next 7 days, I want you to sit down, and I actually want you to write down, how are you spending your time? Like, take a really good, honest look at it. It's going to piss you off. You're going to fucking figure out things of like, why am I? And then once you do that, you'll figure out, okay, is this worth my time? Like, am I doing this because, and this is where Ikigai kind of comes in, right? Then you can start to look at, am I spending my time in the things that actually bring me joy, that bring me the highest excitement, that actually is helping the world, that I can get paid for? Like these things. And if it's not in the highest alignment to your zone of genius, not just competence, but your zone of genius and the things you love and that bring those type of emotions to your life, then you get to delegate it or delete it. And so that would be kind of the steps I would take. But I would say, and then there's multiple ways and tools that you're in the right place if you're with Matt, that you can use and leverage to manage your tasks and projects.
Yeah. Now, the further I go down my founder journey, the more I realize just like time is truly the most valuable asset that you have in performing things like a solid time audit, looking at, your next 2 weeks, every 15 minutes, like write down in a spreadsheet, like what are all the different tasks that you're working on, and then go back to that sheet and mark down which stuff's draining your energy, what stuff is energizing you. And then ruthlessly, yeah, like you're saying, either automate, eliminate, or delegate those things that are draining your energy to free up more time for the things that are bringing you joy, and the things like you're saying that are in your zone of genius, and freeing up your time just to, also just have creative space to be just your ultimate self and live life with friends, family. I know you're a new father, and there's things more important even than obviously the work side that we got to leave space for. I'm curious, like, we both help a lot of founders that are going from 6 figures to 7 figures plus. When you think about like a creator business, what do you think really differentiates someone that's at that 6-figure level and then getting kind of unstuck, maybe over some certain self-limiting beliefs to then break through 7 figures and beyond?
Such a great question, dude. What comes through, because there's actually a few different things there. I don't think it's just like a one single answer, but I will
I agree.
Go with the one that feels most present for me right now, and that's actually authenticity. And authenticity is a unique attribute, it's a unique frequency, it's a unique, skill. And it's used very often. It's used, right? We hear this word, authenticity, being authentic. Let's break it down, right? Like, what is authenticity? I'm curious for you, Matt, like, what is authenticity for you?
I think it's being like totally fearless and just being your true self. Which is oftentimes the most difficult thing to do.
Yes, you nailed it, right? That's what it is, right? It's truly being ourselves. And I have an affirmation that I live by every single day. I use this whenever I'm kind of doubting myself, because that happens consistently, and I go through the imposter syndrome and the comparison and the fear of other people's opinions, the FOPO, and all the things that we all go through as creators, right? The overanalysis paralysis, all the things, like, we all go through those things. And for my affirmation is, I am a loving force of strength and guidance, inspiring the world to be themselves now. And I think that authenticity, when we break it down, it is that it's being ourselves. But the thing about authenticity and the way that I think a lot of times it's portrayed on social media is like this feeling, this thing that like makes us think that we are trying to be authentic for other people, right? Like, it's like, hey man, like, man, Matt, like you should be more vulnerable, dude. Like, hey man, like you should, next time you share on your story, like try like crying a little bit, like try sharing a little more. Like, and we kind of are like trying to teach people how to be authentic and manipulate authenticity so that it could be authentic for your audience. And let me tell you, this is not authenticity. So if you're trying to be authentic, you're actually not being authentic. And so when you actually are authentic is when you're not trying to be anything for anyone else. Because the truth is, I can't be authentic for Matt. Matt can't be authentic for someone else because no one really knows Matt. Like, what is really Matt? Who is Matt? Like, what is his life experiences? What has he gone through? What have his struggles been? What are his values? You know, where is he at in this season of his life? Like, I don't necessarily know what's going to be authentic for Matt. Like, I'm not going to try to be authentic for Matt. But if I just be if I just be my fucking self, if I just try to be authentic for me, because for me, it takes off the stress of trying to be someone I'm not, to be liked by someone who I don't even know will ever fucking like me. And when we can let go of that and just like fucking just be authentic for ourselves, whether the camera is on or off, because I've met some leaders that look super authentic online and then you meet them offline, and I've interviewed hundreds of conscious leaders and entrepreneurs and creators on the planet. And it's crazy how many of them are like Matt, where I actually am friends with them, that they're the real deal, not just online, but offline. They're authentic. And so those are the leaders, in my opinion. Those are the creators, in my opinion, that's the secret weapon to getting from not just 6 to 7 figures, but to actually building a fucking empire. There's no stopping you. This is a lifelong game. And the ones, and if you're not a creator, you're getting left behind, period. This is the wave. You know, 1 in 4 people are creators. We're growing at a rate that's, it's the future. And so, in my opinion, the best thing you can do is not become a slave to it, to not be trapped by the chains of the matrix, thinking you need to be someone you're not. And I know that that's hard, especially when there's so many creators online that you look at and you're scrolling and you're like, fuck, I want to be like that. And how do I do this and how do I do that? Don't try to be Matt. Matt is the only one that could be Matt. You can be inspired by Matt. You can be inspired by me. You can be inspired by these individuals, but then alchemize that to being you, because that is the secret weapon. That's the edge that will take you beyond any level of success that you even think you want. Trust me, it is way bigger, and it's going to give you the freedom that, most importantly, and the fulfillment that you'll want. For me, that's the key. That's the secret weapon more than anything.
Yeah, I think when people focus too much on kind of the outside noise, you know, getting too many tips or tricks, or you know, following other people's opinions too much, you end up just kind of like losing yourself, right? Losing maybe the true intention of why you had even gotten started in the first place. And you know, on the other side, you know, versus kind of chasing what everyone else is doing, I think if you can kind of go and find out like who you really are, dive into your own core identity. What makes you tick? What are just like the things that you enjoy doing? What does a perfect week for you look like? A perfect day, like that is you. Lean into that. And versus chasing, you start kind of attracting the right kind of audience you're looking for, the right kind of people that you want in your community, because they resonate with like truly who you are, your soul, your own energy, versus you trying to be like someone else. As you start to kind of like think about people that want to go all in, right? Or already are all in and looking to grow. We've talked a lot about sort of the mindset, the systems to have in place, that mentality. On the other side, like with monetization, what are some trends you're seeing there, and kind of taking creator businesses to the next level?
Yeah, such a great question. And before I answer that, I just want to add a couple pieces, which I think is just really important for those of you that are like, okay, like I get that, but like, what is an actual step that I can take to actually activate more authenticity, just for someone who I feel is maybe feeling that, right? And because I've been there, and I've recently and I still go through that. And I would say that like the identity piece is really important, because essentially it is the identity piece, right? Like, who are you? Like, why are you here? What are you here to do? Who are you? Who am I? One of the greatest important questions that we ask ourselves, and consistently. I mean, I know I've gone through so many times in my life, each different phase, season. Who am I? What is my purpose? And I think one of the first things that you can do that I've been really thinking about recently in the identity piece is just, what do you stand for? But also, what don't you stand for? Like really getting clear on that, because a lot of times we can think about the things that we are standing for, that we believe in, but we're a little scared to think about the things what we're not for. And that to me is the aspect that actually creates the polarization for people to be magnified towards you. And it's really a scary thing, because you're going to piss people off. People aren't going to like you. People are going to judge you. We're human beings and we judge. It's just the truth. And so like building the strength to saying like, know that that's coming. That's okay. Those are people that are just not meant for your community or meant to follow you anyways. Let them unfollow you. Let them, block them if you need to. But being willing to stand firm and know who you are. What are you for and what are you not for? And then what are your values? Like really write those down. I've consistently audited my values, but in this season of your life, what are your values? And then making that list of the things that you stand for and what are you against? What are the things that you're just not, you're not for, and being willing to talk about those things and welcome conversation. It doesn't necessarily need to be everyone else's truth. So I just felt called to share that before we jump into monetization.
No, I like that piece too, because I think too, when you're going through these exercises, like embrace your weirdness, be okay with being into things or having a value or something you stand for that's just a little bit weird, right? That sometimes is just like, that's your uniqueness. Embrace that. I'm curious, as you kind of think about maybe something that you stand for, Gerard, that, you think that most of the world likely disagrees with you on. Is there something that kind of stands out as like, no, this is something that like, that can take a stand on and is something that is truly meaningful to me?
Wow. Gosh, that's a great question. I'll say a big one that's been present for me recently. And that's just like, I think just like my path with working in spirituality. I'm a unique dude who's like, I'm for psychedelics. Like I practice with psychedelics, like I just practiced with psychedelics this weekend in Colombia and had the most like insane breakthroughs. And I use psychedelics as a way to play into my Neo, my Ready Player One, just like tapping into these different realms. And that to me is polarizing and it's different, especially being someone who's devoted to Jesus Christ. A lot of times it's like one or the other, and I've had a lot of people that are like come at me with like, it's got to be one way or another. And it's like, no. Like Jesus is like my guy. You know what I'm saying? Like he's my hero. Like he's the person that anchors me. And I believe in Christ, and I believe in being a disciple and what Christ stood for. And at the same time, a lot of people will think that like it's evil to work with psychedelics. And I still work with plant medicine and I still work with psychedelics while believing in Jesus. And that's different. That makes me different. And a lot of people will not agree with me and they may not want to follow me. And I'm okay with that at this point.
Love it. Embracing that, spirituality, when a lot of people, out there, sometimes it becomes something that people start to associate with being woo-woo, and sometimes being Christian or into God, like, brings up certain connotations for certain kind of people. Right. But just being like true to that, being real, and embracing, your beliefs and being fearless and kind of, expressing them, making it a part of your creative process and sharing it with things like, podcasts and others, I think is a big thing. And so, on the monetization side, then, as people are looking to get to like, 7 figures plus with their creator-based business, like how do you kind of think about like the flywheels that people could be putting into place to really not just like get to 7 figures, but put something in place that can really help them explode online?
Yeah, that's such a great question. There's so many different routes that you can take. 2 in particular, one that has worked for me that has allowed me to scale to multi-millions of dollars as a personal brand has been like high ticket, right? And many people have seen this, and they've gone to come into one of my masterminds, work with me in one of my containers, and usually it's like 25 grand to $100,000. And when you're selling things at those levels, you don't need like a huge amount of people to make millions of dollars. Each one of those containers, I would typically have 33 was my number, and so I would aim to have 33 people, and I would have these containers. I would run about 12 weeks. And then I'm going to have one that was longer, 6 months, 3 months, out of 3 months, out of 6 months, out of 1 year. I just did a lot of high ticket. I had one-on-one clients that would work with me. That was also six figures to work with me one-on-one. And so that's worked with me. And you can go and have your audience come into more of these higher level tickets. But I feel like for me, the one that, and I also will say that I feel like having an ascension of products is a way to build a really profitable, sustainable business. It's not just having one particular way to work with you, but having a suite of products that feel really good to do, right? Like one-on-one is not for everyone, but I love one-on-one. Like, I'm like, damn, it's not scalable, but if I can have like my 10 clients a year that are badass like Matt, that I can like really get into their life and I can really be there and I talk to them on a day-to-day basis and I'm transforming their personal lives and their businesses. And like, to me, I just love it. I really love that. And so even just that is $1 million, right? But I think the one that I feel is the biggest opportunity is, and I feel Matt is one of the best in the world at doing this right now, is actually building more of a scalable model. I've learned this also from, I just became an author for Mindvalley. They're the largest personal growth app in the world currently right now. Matt, you would be such a great fit for them. I'm going to make an introduction for you. And they had gone more of this low membership model. And I feel like that's a huge opportunity right now, is to have subscription-based models that are a little bit more of a lower barrier to entry, but high value, like over delivering value. I think that Matt is a king at this. This is what I'm doing with the Creator Collective over at Leaders Create Leaders. Like, it's just starting to go more low ticket and a lower barrier to entry, but just, I'm actually giving so much value that it's like, sometimes it's uncomfortable because I'm like, geez, like I was giving this a couple of years, like a year or two ago, I was giving this much value to my clients that were, buying into containers at hundreds of thousands of dollars. Essentially, though, it got to a point where I'm still doing that. Those prices are going up, though. But essentially, it's like I care about impact, right? And I think that a lot of times we look at ROI monetization from a dollar perspective, and that is important. But I feel like one of the greatest things I learned from one of my mentors, Ryan Blair, was he said, money doesn't lead, it follows. And I believe that. And if you can really be focusing on the transformation of a client, the transaction is the mechanism to create the transformation. And so for me, I look at like how many of the leaders that are actually a good fit, of course, but like I want to serve as many of them as possible. I want to live my life and reach it, impacting 1 billion of these leaders on the planet. It used to be 100 million. And I was like, what the fuck am I playing so small? Like, fuck that. Like, let's go, and I just, to me, if I impact 1 billion people, will I be a billionaire? I hope fucking so. But the truth is I'd be getting intentional with like, what would I even want with $1 billion? What does that look like for me? I think a lot of people want a certain amount of money. Let's say it's 1 million, 10 million, 100 million, 1 billion. If you're listening to this, what I want to ask is like, why? Get really clear, because if you're not clear, you may be able to work really hard and you may make that kind of money, but you'll be surprised at how you feel when you actually make it. You won't actually feel, from my experience, as fulfilled as you could if you were really intentional with that version of you, because you started to become that version of you before you actually had that money. And then through becoming that version of you and actually being that every day for your community at a large scale and focusing more on the impact than the money aspect, you tend to see that you're going to make a lot of money along the way. And that's what I would recommend for.
Yeah, no, I love that. I want to kind of double click into the sort of ascension piece, because I think there's a lot of people trying to figure out how this all works. You got high ticket, you got low ticket, you got masterminds. Like there's a whole suite, like you said, going on. Guys like us, I think, have learned over the years, like the importance of setting up these flywheels in your business. And, content oftentimes is like the heart of it. I remember an interview with Mr. Beast, someone saying, how are you going to become, a YouTube billionaire? And he kind of talks about how he's just focused on that next content idea and making the next piece of content as amazing as possible, because all the impact he's after, all the views, all the cash, all that is just a product of like that next piece of content being the best possible piece of content. And so I think we both operate businesses where content is at the heart of it. Yeah. And then it feeds the rest of the business, which is maybe the ascension, the newsletter flywheels, and everything else. What's an example of kind of like a content flywheel in your business and how you're using that content to then ascend people through your suite of products?
Yeah, thank you for asking. I would say two that we use pretty consistent. Gosh, there's okay. Well, first and foremost, I think this is something you're doing really, really well. This was actually the first skill I learned as an entrepreneur when I was 18 years old, which is building an email list. And I love how you have really doubled down on this, because I think it's one of the greatest assets in the world that I can't believe is actually as like, it's crazy. Because for so long we've thought about like, oh, there's email is going to become obsolete. Like you think about it, we had artificial intelligence, yet we still use email. It's kind of beyond, right? But it's proven itself that it's like got a really strong foundation. And these are people that have opted in to go deeper with you versus just being, I know you talk about this rented audience on social media. And so for me, I'm, consistently looking at ways to create assets that would be valuable to have my Instagram audience to opt in and ultimately join our creators newsletter. And so that's one way. And then through that, ultimately just providing as much value as possible, typically talking about different videos that we're putting out and updating them on just the different episodes on the Leaders Create Leaders show, and just trying to provide as much value as possible with also weaving in opportunities and invitations for them to go deeper with us. I think another one that has honestly been like the biggest lever has been the DMs, ultimately driving really valuable content. And you see this now a lot, but just the opportunity for someone to DM you if they're interested as a part of the call to action, and just having the conversation with them through the direct message, and then ultimately then setting up a call and setting up a vision call where we're able to provide value to them, see if there's alignment, but ultimately like just really provide value, whether or not they buy something or not, like really understand their vision, give them value on that call. And then if there's alignment, invite them into being a part of our container and our incubator. So that's been huge for us, the DM. And then also just workshops. This is something I'm playing with, like free versus paid. Like we've usually done like low ticket paid, so like $47 workshops, because then it's ultimately creating a buyer's list. And we find that those people obviously show up, they're more present, they're actually more aligned to being our ideal customer. But we're also now testing out kind of the free model as well, and seeing how that's going. That's something that we're going to be testing out later this month. So yeah, man, I'm curious for you, how that's worked out for you, like free versus like paid workshops. Have you tried both of those? And curious how that's working out for you.
Yeah, I can dive into a couple of things there. So yeah, first off, email is a weapon, and I think going from, when you're trying to get to 7 figures, 8 figures plus, like moving from broadcast model emails, moving to like total email automation dominance, right? And looking at setting up something with a ConvertKit as an example, having all the flows built out, so you're understanding along the way, what are people's intention for coming to you? Are they looking to grow their vision, build the content flywheel, grow their audience, build their YouTube, and then customizing and personalizing those segments based on the intention of why someone's coming to you, and then being able to ascend them, like you're kind of talking about, to the right products based on why they're even joining that newsletter. There's no reason to be sending everyone the same stuff when you can probably split out your list into, say, 6 different segments based on why those people have joined. So starting to kind of dial in that segmentation when you're ready to move from, beginner to Jedi with this stuff, I think is a key aspect. Yeah, moving on to the workshop stage. I mean, I've done, 7 figures over the last 6 months just off workshops alone. On one side, they're a good revenue engine. On the other side, they're also just an incredible lead magnet, right? There's an awesome opportunity for people just to come and chop it up with you or me or whoever's listening to this, right? Through a live workshop, approaching it as 90% education, give, and then 10%, giving them a bit of information on how to go deeper with you. And so when it comes to like paid workshops versus free workshops, I think the thing to consider is, if you're thinking of it as a lead magnet, then I like to make them free, right?
Okay.
You just want to get as many people into that thing, as many people on. There's generally a rule. It's like, I think it's like, I'd call it like the 10-10 rule. 10% of people that sign up are going to come live, and 10% of the people that are live are going to convert. And so you're not looking necessarily on the revenue side to just be making the $47 up front from someone. You're likely looking to actually go in and send them to larger products or subscriptions and things you have. So going and just delivering that free value to people with the hope of they may be going deeper with you on the back end, I think is the way I prefer to look at it. And then, in addition to that, again, first and foremost for us is like impact community. You talk about wanting to impact 1 billion founders. I'm still at that 100 million phase right now, but maybe I was talking today with someone. It's like, what 100 million? Should we change this to 1 billion? And she's like, well, no, it's 2 weeks ago you were at 10 million.
Yeah, you're definitely doing trust me, it's not even gonna be a billion, it's gonna be more than that, dude, because we're doing this together. And so
yeah, I'm trying to do the math. I'm like, are there 1 billion founders in the world? I'm like, or maybe that's my mission. I'm just, so I was having that chat earlier. But yeah, so back to the workshop piece, it's like, I mean, first and foremost with like building the community, building the impact, right? Like even if, hey, on that given workshop, you have 3,800 people that join it and only 40 of those actually purchase something from you. What's the impact of the, 3,760 that still like they saw your message, they learned some things, they're going out into their workspace, their world, their friends, and having heard that message from you, I think there's a ripple effect with this. And I think that's one of the most powerful aspects of a community is that ripple effect you can have, right? You go share that energy, share those insights, impacts a couple people, impacts 8 people, then it goes to 32, and keeps on rippling out from there. So yeah, I see workshops as being an awesome engine for kind of creating that ripple effect. And on the business side, being a great engine for your lead magnet for your newsletter.
Oh man, thank you so much for sharing. First of all, that was gold. Guys, write that stuff down. Like we watched this, like that was gold. So thank you. I definitely am looking forward to stepping even more into my Jedi with emails.
There we go.
So thank you. But you said something that I just want to highlight that I felt was really cool that I've been thinking a lot about. And you mentioned this like ripple effect, right, of impact. And for me, I really think a lot about legacy a lot. It's something I'm passionate about. I'm passionate about ancestry. So I'm writing a book right now, and it's also tied into ancestral leadership and this idea of legacy, like redefining legacy, right? And I feel you said something that's really true, right? Like whether it's 100 million or 1 billion or whatever, there's this ripple effect that happens that we almost can't even see. It's unquantifiable. Of that is our legacy, and it's even doing things like this, how we're collaborating with others and how we're weaving. Like, you've impacted my legacy, Matt, and I hope that I've impacted yours, and I think that that's really special. And you sometimes can forget as a creator, as a founder, that not only the legacy that you're creating for yourself, but how just that, that one email, that one piece of content, that one conversation, you don't realize, but it makes a difference and it changes that person's heart. And when I think legacy, it's impacting someone's heart that inspires them to make a shift, a change in their own life. It's invaluable. It's priceless when we can do that and I think that's the thing that brings us all together as human beings. We all want to create a massive impact and make the world a better place. And some others may realize it a little more than not, depending on where they're at and what season they're at. But I hope that if you're listening to this, you start to think more about legacy and your legacy. And as much as it's, one of my mentors, I asked him, he scaled the company from 1 billion to 10 billion in like 18 months. And I was like, how did you do that? Right? Like I've never done that, right? Like now we're going to a whole nother level. I was like, what's the one piece of advice that you would give me that you learned in scaling from 1 billion to now 10 billion? That's going to be us, man. In 20 years, you're going to be old as fuck. And now I'm teaching you how to go from 1 billion to $10 billion. We'll probably be living to 170 by that time, with everything that's happening. But in any case, he said that the number one thing was measuring, like actually getting really particular with like measuring success, like having your targets and becoming like obsessed with measuring data. And I know that you're in this way where you love data. And so I've been really getting into more of like measuring that data. And as much as that's important, I feel like it's just as important to balance that obsession with understanding your data with also recognizing that behind that data are people. And those people and those hearts, like you're making a real difference. And I think that when you can come into balance and harmony with those two things, I think at that point, like you can actually play at the infinite game that we are all playing as creators.
Yeah. No, it's interesting. Yeah, because you can look at data forever, right? And see different spikes in charts and big days you've had or a big month and look back to certain days that, you put out something and it resonated and all these things. And I find that, that can inform you to a certain extent. I oftentimes find though for the kind of stuff that we're creating, and I'm sure a lot of other people are kind of building things around their own passions, what sets them on fire, maybe their own ikigai and their own calling in life. I oftentimes just like to think about, 4 years ago, what did I need to hear? What would have helped me overcome the obstacles I was dealing with, the challenges? What would have really unlocked some insane breakthrough that I was yearning for at that time, but just couldn't quite get it, right? And oftentimes I find, yeah, you can listen to the data, but also just, think about 4 years ago, what would have really just been a major breakthrough that now I am in the, place in life that I could share that insight with myself 4 years ago and create that breakthrough. And, for me, it's things like, focusing my mornings on deep work and blocking off space. That's something I wish I had known years ago. And I'll put out content around that and it will blow up. But it's less around focusing on the data around it. And it's more around thinking about what are those major breakthroughs that I can now share with people that would have really helped me on my journey. And the reality is that in the particular is the universal, right? So the more you can kind of focus on maybe some particular things that have really helped you get, over some humps in life. The truth is that there's probably hundreds or millions of people that are kind of challenged with those same things.
Yeah. Yeah. It's such a great point, bro. Really is. And then they say that's like stepping forward and really leading in this way. You don't need to be that far. Like you really don't. You need to be just like one step ahead even. Right. And so It's just like sharing your journey. Like you can even share just what did you just learn? What was a recent breakthrough that you just learned and overcame in your life yesterday, this past week? I mean, we're just in this life that's a constant ceremony, and we're just all going through our own curriculum constantly that God is giving to each and every one of us. That's for you. And I think it's just as you're overcoming that in your own life, just like sharing. If you have insight and you've overcome something, it's, I just recently, I think we can even go into the subject if you're called, but like recently and it's crazy, but it's just like, I'm at this festival, right? And I'm just like, I'm living my life and like, and just pinching myself with just the life that I've created, and I get a phone call that one of my best friends growing up, a childhood best friend of mine, I'm not going to say, just out of respect. So her brother had, just committed suicide, and he's someone that I grew up with, like looking up to. He was a lot older than me. He was about 10 years older than me. Her mom is my mom's best friend, and her dad is like my dad's best friend. And I got to call her, and when she heard my voice, she was just so fucking happy. She was just like, Gerard, like, oh my God, I'm so happy. Like, you're the closest thing I have to a brother since my brother. And like I just heard the grief and like what she was going through, which I will never understand. I would never want to ever have anyone to go through losing a loved one in that way. And man, it brought things to perspective again for me. And just like, even just beyond the business stuff, guys, like there's so many people in the world right now that are suffering that you just don't know. And like your piece, like just like you can make a difference, like you really can, and it's worth it. And it doesn't mean that, some people like it's not necessarily going to be a piece of content. Like they have their own will and that's their choice. And I honor and respect when someone uses that God-given will, and that's the way that they want to choose, how they would like to transition from the suffering. And it's just been, it's been really difficult, going through that and being a witness. And also just that same day, I met someone who had just lost a brother like 6 months earlier. And so the same day I had I actually had another synchronicity happen that day. By the end of that day, I met someone whose brother is in depression. Like it was just crazy, the curriculum that I was getting in that day, brought to me. But it just had me, recognize like you sometimes you don't realize, but your deepest pain, it has a purpose. And like when you can look at like the things that you've overcome in your life, the things that maybe you hold so sacred that have been so tough, like trust me, like you would be surprised the things that you may not think have, that much meaning or that are not, that you're not going to share. But like there's people out there that that are going through that, and that you can help. And also just like, even just being kind, you know, it reminded me to just like call your friend, like just call your mom, call your brother, call your, hey, I miss you, I love you. Is there, regardless of whatever happened, just be the leader in that relationship and remind people that you're thinking of them, that you care about them. And just, you know, that's so needed right now. We're in such a huge mental health crisis currently right now in the world. And so I just hope that if you're still watching this or listening to this, and you're inspired to like really today, like reach out to your friends, reach out to people you care about and you love, or if you feel called and you've overcome something, like stepping into being a creator from that way. Like maybe you don't want to launch a business from it right away, right? But you just feel called to like just start sharing more, and in hopes that you will inspire and potentially even, you know, save someone's life. You know, so I think that's a really important role that we all play as creators.
Yeah, no, I've had, you know, close friends growing up that, you know, yeah, attempted suicide, and yeah, played a, you know, it really changes you, and it's a tough thing to see, you know, other people battling with, you know, mental health. I think it's one of the struggles of our time. You know, we're more connected than ever in certain ways, but at the same token, you know, we're struggling more at the same time. And yeah, content, you know, as an example, and some of the creator stuff we've been talking about, you know, we oftentimes like can focus so much on, like you're saying, just like, what do people want to see from us authentically, or the, you know, focus more on vulnerability and it's so tough, or you're chasing views or looking at data. There's so much noise, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting to sometimes just look at it and just look at, you know, content can be a vehicle to help other people and help them solve their problems, right? Whether those are tactical type problems,
Right.
emotional problems, and the more we can use it as a way to serve others, help others, and give back. Oftentimes, like that can be the real fuel to the whole thing, right? Because there's nothing more rewarding than being able to, yeah, help people that may be down and out, or maybe just need to hear a message of encouragement, or a little glimmer of hope in what can sometimes feel like a dark time. So, you know, I'm sorry to hear that, you know, your friend went through that too. That's a lot. And it's such a tricky thing. Like I've, you know, heard it a few times with different friends, and yeah, condolences to anyone out there that's struggling with that, or has been through that in their friends or family. It's a tough one.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, just definitely just sending out so much love right now to anyone who's listening to this that has gone through that, or is going through that, or is even considering that. Just know that you're not alone. Know that you know, you have people that care about you. Feel free to DM me, to connect with me. Entrepreneurship also, you know, it looks all rainbows, and it's not. You know, it's. I saw someone's video recently, and it's like it's really fucking tough. Like you're having the courage to step up and like share a vision with the world and build something out of nothing, and like figuring this out. It's not taught in schools anymore, you know, like, or yet, I should say. And it's courageous of you, and it can get lonely, it can get tough. You know, I've been there, we've all been there. And so join a community, reach out, be a, you know, no, don't lone wolf it. If that's one thing you take from this, like don't lone wolf it.
Yeah, I love that. Well, Gerard, this has been fun as always. I appreciate all your mentorship over the years. Most importantly, your friendship. You're an amazing brother, and I appreciate all the insights over the years, the support. You've always had my back, and can't wait for our next hike and maybe a little psychedelics in the near future.
My guy.
Well, thanks so much for being on this. And so, where can the audience most support you?
Oh, thank you so much, brother. I love you. I miss you, man. Like, we got to plan a trip. You know, we do really do. I'd love for you to come stay at the home in North Carolina, kick it, meet my daughter, meet the family, meet Ash. I'd be down to meet you somewhere. Like, dude, come to Burning Man this year. It's the greatest show on earth. It's the best. I'd love to hang out with you.
It's great.
Okay, cool. Yeah, bro. Yeah. I'd love to kick it with you there. In any case, though, yeah, if you guys, I would love to. I got Leaders Create Leaders is the name of the business. It's the name of my show. I'm relaunching season 7. Matt, I'd love to have you on the show. And so, yeah, check out leaderscreateleaders.com. My Instagram is at Gerard Adams. I'd love to connect with you guys. And the podcast is Leaders Create Leaders as well. You can go to YouTube and look up Leaders Create Leaders and see some of the past interviews with some of the most epic creators, entrepreneurs, artists on the planet. And so, yeah, man, shout out to the Founder OS squad, and I can't wait to hang out, bro.
Thanks so much, man. Really appreciate it.